Hey guys, I was invited again to another private playtest to try out Valorant's newest agent, Astra. Reigning from Ghana, she's a new controller coming to Valorant, and in this video we're going to take a look at her abilities, sort of talk about how she works, and maybe give some of my first impressions and a little insight into how I think she'll play. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we look at her other abilities, let's take a look at her unique UI and also explain her two-part ultimate. The 5 symbols that you see above her abilities are her stars, which she can have 5 max per round. In fact, her stars are the only abilities that she needs to buy, and you start with 2 every round for free. They are 200 credits each, so for a max util buy for Astra, it will cost you 600 credits. These stars are how Astra utilizes all 3 of her other abilities. This brings us to her two-part ult. Let's just talk about the passive part for now, which is called Astral Form. This is how you place your stars around the map, and you go into this top-down view with global range, and you can go anywhere freely and change your elevation, and you can place the stars literally wherever you'd like. While you're in this form, you know, here's your actual model. You're in this very zen meditative state floating, so obviously your body is stationary and you need to be careful when you're doing stuff like this. This is what the star looks like once it's placed, and it also shows you the radius of all of the abilities that you'll activate. Now, if you look at her ability tooltips, every single one of her non-ultimate abilities require you to place a star and activate this star to use an ability. So let's go over her first ability. Her first ability is Gravity Well. Activate a star to form a gravity well, which slows players in the radius while pulling them towards the center. After a delay, it explodes, making anyone still inside vulnerable. Her second activatable ability is Nova Pulse. Activate a star to detonate a Nova Pulse, charging briefly before concussing all players within its area. And lastly, her third activatable ability, Nebula. Activate a star to transform it into a nebula, which is just a smoke. These smokes are about the same size as Omen smokes, and they're also hollow on the inside. They last for about 15 seconds. And even if you were to place this on top of something, like you can with Omen smokes and utilize it as sort of a one-way, you'll see that it is about the same height. It might be a little shorter, not as tall as an Omen smoke, but produces the same type of effect. Now her Nebula ability, which is the smoke ability, actually has a second part, which is Dissipate. What Dissipate allows you to do is to recall a star from anywhere around the map and basically pull it back for later usage in the round. Also, upon recalling the star, it will leave a fake nebula for, a few seconds. So it looks like this. As you can see at the bottom, I have 2 out of 5 stars, so I'll pull it back. It leaves the nebula here for a second and drops it. And at the bottom, you can see that the star is recharging. And after a short delay, it's able to be placed again anywhere else I'd like to put it. Lastly, this brings us to the active part of her ultimate, which is called Cosmic Divide. It is a 7-point ultimate, which requires you to first enter the passive version of your ult called Astral Form. And instead of your primary fire key, which would regularly place a star, you click Alt Fire to use the ult. You now must select 1 point on the map, and then you can connect it with another point, basically creating a line. So for instance, if I did one here, and as you can see now, rotating my mouse around, I can place this wall however I would like, and it looks like this. After a small delay, this goes up, and as you can see, this is gigantic. It stretches across the entire map. It goes even above the skybox. Now, her ultimate lasts for about 25 seconds, and it does 2 things. Number 1, it blocks bullets, as you can see by this ripple effect. And number 2, it dampens sound. From when I was playing and testing it and talking to a couple other people, dampening sound actually just equates to it pretty much, you can't really hear anything on either side of the wall. It's also important to note that this wall blocks bullets and jet daggers. Everything else goes through this wall. You can run back and forth freely. It doesn't matter if they're a friendly or an enemy. Every ability will go through this wall. Raise grenades, shock darts, Sova darts, anything you can think of. It only stops bullets, jet daggers, and sound. And when I say that it mutes sound, I mean that anybody on a specific side of the wall cannot hear anything on the other side. So for instance, if somebody was here on the other side of the wall, and you were to come here and hit this TP, they would be able to hear you TP on this side of the map, of course, and anybody that was on Hookah side, or U-Haul, excuse me, they could hear you. But if someone was on this side of the wall, they would not be able to hear you TP. Now, a couple of things to talk about first. Number 1, let's talk about her stars and how they work and how the enemy sees them. You can place your stars during the freeze time, even behind the barriers. So contrary to a lot of other abilities in Valorant where you can't necessarily throw them, you know, you can set like Killjoy utility or Cypher utility up, let's say, on your side of the map, but you can't go throw a Killjoy lineup before the barriers drop. But with Astra, it doesn't matter where you want to place the stars, you can place them anywhere on the map. It is global. And FYI, everything is global with Astra. She can place the stars anywhere on the map. She can recall them from anywhere on the map, and she can also activate them from anywhere on the map. So she's a very versatile and dynamic agent. But speaking about the stars, so like I said, you can place them anywhere you want. If you place stars before the barrier drops, enemies will not see where your stars are until 2 seconds before the round starts. Also, you cannot destroy these stars, not with abilities, not with guns, nothing. They're indestructible. One more thing to note about Astra is that she is only limited by the amount of stars she has and not by her abilities themselves. It may only look like you have 1 gravity well, 1 nova pulse, and 2 nebulas at the bottom, but these abilities simply have cooldowns. Her nebula is a 15-second cooldown, and for both gravity well and nova pulse, they are 12-second cooldowns. So what I mean by this is, let's say on attack, you wanted to throw a smoke here and a smoke here. So at the beginning of the round, you would place your 2 stars, you would pop your 2 smokes, and as you can see, I've used 2 out of my 5 stars, and the smoke cooldown is now counting down. Also, keep in mind that the cooldown on these smokes is triggered when you activate the smoke, so your smokes can come up at separate times or almost exactly the same. So as you can see, the smokes have now faded, and I have 3 stars left, and yet I can still have 2 more smokes. So if I wanted to, let's say, double smoke the site on a later in the round, let's say on an execute, I can throw 2 smokes for my team. Now, what this means is that Astra has a lot of versatility. Not only can she decide what she wants to do with her stars during the round, she can decide how to use them and which abilities to use them with. You could use 5 smokes in a round if you really wanted to and you needed to plan it, or you could use 2 nova pulses and 2 smokes and 1 gravity well. Really, the options are endless, and it's going to come down to Astra players being good at figuring out, you know, how to utilize their utility. The other big thing is the fact that a star, you never know what a star might be there for. This could be here for a late round smoke on a retake to cut off short A. This could be here to pop a gravity well in case you rush short A. If they're pushing, you know, you pop the gravity well and they're being pulled to the center and you can fight with it. The star is just the foundation, and the fact that all 3 abilities can be used from the star leaves it up to the Astra to decide how to use her utility and what's the best way to do it. Also, the fact that she can use her utility globally, not only placing them but popping them, means that she is a very versatile agent on both offense and defense on where she can play and what parts of the map she can default. Even though she's primarily a controller, I kind of feel that Astra fills this Initiator, Controller, Sentinel hybrid playstyle, where she can control parts of the map with her smokes and with her concuss and the gravity well, but at the same time, she can use the gravity well or the concuss to help teammates peak angles, to concuss, you know, oppers, or to pull people out of corners, sort of like an Initiator. She can pick up her stars that she has placed on a site if she's on defense to use them on retake on the other site, just like a Killjoy would pick up an alarm bot or a turret. And the fact that she is basically a global agent who can use her abilities and pick them up and place them no matter where she is on the map really just makes it that she's so free to do what she wants and how she wants to do it. But this brings me to one other point, is that let's look at her in terms of being a reactive controller. Now, there is a slight delay when you're trying to pop her abilities. You cannot pop a bunch of stars immediately. Like, what I mean by this is you cannot activate the stars with your abilities as fast as you can click. There's a slight cooldown there, and that's actually intentional, and it's part of the balancing of her. The developers felt that she was pretty strong on defense, and that being able to activate abilities back to back without any sort of commit time made her even stronger, to the point where she was kind of difficult to deal with. So they sort of want her to have this, you know, guns down commitment when she, you know, places her stars and activates abilities, and when she's in this astral form. Another complaint that I noticed during the playtesting was some people were talking about how her astral form seemed kind of wonky, and that they wanted like a variation of this similar to Omen Smoke, where it was easier to place stuff. But not only have the devs stated that this is a thematic choice that fits her, you know, theme and her lore and sort of the fantasy of her, it's also a balancing thing. Like this, you know, you are very exposed and vulnerable when you're in this form, moving around and placing stars. And on top of that, it's harder to be reactive as Astra. You can still be reactive. It's not like you can't throw an ability down and use it in the moment, but she will take advantage of pre-planning abilities. So if they were rushing short A or something, you could drop this right here and then pop a gravity well. It doesn't take that long. It's not that slow to react, but you have to enter this and get disoriented for a second, place your star wherever you want it, leave the thing, wait for the star to come down, and then activate the ability. So if a team was pushing short A, Astra is going to be the type of agent where you'll need to predict where they're going if you're going to use her abilities reactively, because by the time your star goes down, by the time you're out of your astral form and able to activate the star, they're going to be pushed past the angle. So if they're pushing short A and I'm Astra and I'm expecting them to come U-Haul, I might be placing something here and then popping this, you know, basically placing the star and using the ability where you think they're going and not where they are. The devs also talked about her astral form and basically said it's a balance of wanting her to feel strategic and reward her for planning ahead, but also not wanting her to feel too unresponsive, sluggish, or, you know, unable to really react to things. Overall, I definitely think that Astra is going to become a meta agent. I think that we're going to see her in probably almost every single team comp because I think that she's just extremely strong and extremely valuable. I think that she won't probably be the sole controller on most teams. I think that Omen is still super strong. I think that we'll see a lot of Omen and Astra, and then maybe Sentinel, Sova, Duelist, or maybe no Sova and you know, a Sentinel Breach Duelist. But I think that Astra is strong enough that she does incentivize maybe only running one Duelist and running two controllers instead. I think that she has a lot of really cool ability combinations with all sorts of different agents. You can combine her Concuss and her Gravity Well with almost anything you can think of. Killjoy Nanoswarm, Cypher Trips, Raised Nades, Roomba, Ult, Sova, Shock Darts. Like the amount of team play and stuff that we're going to be able to see set up around her abilities is going to be really cool. I think that she has a lot of nuance as an agent and that she's going to be difficult to play well. And I think that the really good Astra players are going to be able to be dynamic around the map and always change which abilities they're using with their stars, keeping it fresh, mixing it up, making it hard to read whether you're going to concuss or use smokes or gravity well or what you're going to do throughout the round. I only got to play her for 2 games during this playtest. I've been extremely busy with team practice and the VCT going on, but honestly it was too much to include in one video. I'm probably going to upload another video showing some of my gameplay with and against her so you guys can see what it looks like in a real 5v5 scenario. But overall, I'm super excited to get to play her more when she's released. I think that there's going to be a lot of cool stuff that people come up with using her utility, you know, in combination with another agent. And I think it's super awesome how Riot continues to innovate and find inventive ways to bring new types of utility and abilities into the game that aren't just, you know, cookie cutter copy pastas from another agent, and truly agents and abilities that are unique in their own right. But thank you guys for watching. I hope that this was interesting and, you know, maybe got you hyped for the new agent coming up, and make sure to stay tuned for some of the gameplay videos on my channel. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all the typical YouTube stuff. And I hope everyone's doing well. Stay safe. Much love. Peace out.